You won't believe what just came out in Justin Baldoni's deposition. Blake Lively's team tried to trap him with lies, exaggerations, and shocking accusations, but everything they set up is backfiring spectacularly. Today we're revealing confidential secrets that were leaked, home addresses, public records, and jaw-dropping claims from Hollywood insiders. And the moment you hear what Jenny Slate, Clara Yubb, and even Ryan Reynolds are tied to, you'll see why this case is turning into one of the most explosive and shocking Hollywood legal battles of the decade. Stay with me, because every detail is stranger than fiction, and what happens next will leave you questioning everything you thought you knew about this story. The latest court drama surrounding Blake Lively and Justin Baldoni has taken a turn that nobody saw coming. And the more you dig into these depositions, the more shocking it becomes. As we peel back the layers of manipulation and intrigue, it becomes painfully clear that every move made by Blake Lively and her team to trap Justin Baldoni has spectacularly backfired in ways that are almost unbelievable. And yet when you look at the details, it all starts to make sense. Because nothing in Hollywood ever stays hidden for long, and in this case, what started as a careful legal maneuver has turned into a public relations nightmare as confidential information was leaked, including home addresses, private correspondence, and sensitive deposition material that should have never been exposed. And the fact that it took over 15 hours to remove the material from the public docket only adds to the confusion and the suspicion that this may have been deliberate, because no seasoned attorney makes a mistake this colossal without reason, and the media has started to catch on. Although the coverage is still in the early stages, with outlets like the Daily Mail and the New York Post reporting on the sealing and unsealing of documents, while also highlighting the involvement of major figures like Taylor Swift and Ryan Reynolds. And yet when you dig deeper, you realize that the way these reports are framed can be misleading. Because Justin Baldoni's goal is not to expose Taylor Swift at all. He has no interest in dragging her into this publicly. Rather, his focus is on revealing the truth about Blake Lively's tactics and how her attempts to manipulate witnesses and frame narratives for her advantage have created a situation that is spiraling completely out of her control. And the more you read through Justin Baldoni and Jamie Heath's depositions, the more obvious it becomes that Blake Lively's strategy is collapsing under its own weight, because the evidence simply does not support her claims, and the deposition transcripts reveal so many inconsistencies and so many overreaches by Blake Lively's legal team that it becomes almost comical in places. Yet it is devastating, because the stakes are so high, not only for Justin Baldoni and the production team behind Ends With Us, but for the reputations of all parties involved. And one of the most striking elements of these depositions is the way they highlight the absurdity of the accusations made by Blake Lively's camp, and the way the questioning often veers into territory that seems more designed to create scandal than to uncover truth. Because, for example, when Justin Baldoni is asked about Jenny Slate, it becomes clear that Jenny Slate never made any allegations of serious misconduct, only minor personal discomfort at isolated moments. And yet Blake Lively's attorneys have tried to inflate these moments into evidence of wrongdoing, which is completely disproportionate. And as you go deeper, you realize that Jenny Slate's deposition itself paints a very different picture. She describes Justin as awkward, or making her feel slightly uncomfortable, but nowhere does she accuse him of harassment or abuse. And yet the legal team tries to frame her reactions as if they are damning evidence, when in reality they are not. And the ridiculousness continues when the discussion turns to the culture of hugging on set. And Justin's responses are so measured and composed that they contrast sharply with the aggressive line of questioning he faces, and he explains that hugging is an energy exchange, a human connection, and not a tool of manipulation. And when the attorney presses him about investigating comfort levels before engaging in physical greetings, he calmly explains that interactions on set are organic and consensual. And yet this is twisted to suggest impropriety, and it highlights just how far Blake Lively's legal strategy has gone in trying to manufacture a narrative that simply does not exist. And as the deposition continues, you begin to see that Justin Baldoni's patience and composure under pressure is remarkable. He faces long hours of intense questioning, sometimes 10 to 13 hours a day, and yet he maintains a consistent story. He does not contradict himself, and he remains calm and open about his interactions with colleagues, which makes it extremely difficult for Blake Lively's team to portray him as guilty or culpable. And the media coverage only scratches the surface, because the reporters tend to focus on sensational headlines, like attempts to expose Taylor Swift or portray Ryan Reynolds as secretly involved, when in reality Justin's team is simply defending the truth and exposing the attempts by Blake Lively to manipulate both people and information for personal gain. And the deposition also reveals the extent to which third parties like Clara Yeb inserted themselves into the case, claiming experiences and grievances that have no bearing on the actual production or events, and yet Blake Lively's team attempts to use these statements to strengthen their narrative, which backfires because Justin Baldoni's clear recollection and professional handling of the situation makes it obvious that there was no abuse and no wrongdoing on his part. And what is perhaps most shocking is the way Blake Lively's legal team attempts to equate minor social media activities such as Justin tagging a brand or clothing in a post with the kind of marketing missteps that they criticize Blake for, but Justin's actions are logical and minor in contrast, and this kind of comparison exposes a double standard that works against Blake Lively because it makes it clear that the backlash against her was largely manufactured, and the attempts to equate these minor actions with serious misconduct highlight the desperation and implausibility of the case against him. And as you read further, you begin to see the attempts to associate Justin with political movements such as MAGA or HETU or the Manosphere, which are entirely irrelevant, and yet Blake Lively's attorneys push these absurd angles as if to suggest guilt by association, and Justin's calm and sometimes humorous responses turn these moments into reflections of how far removed these claims are from reality. And you see how he skillfully navigates the questioning, he corrects misrepresentations and clarifies his position while maintaining integrity and composure, and the deposition also highlights the repeated attempts to tie Justin's loyalty to his friends like Jamie Heath into a narrative of corruption, which again falls flat because loyalty between colleagues and friends is natural and human and not evidence of wrongdoing. And the more you examine the transcripts, the more you see a pattern emerge that Blake Lively's team is relying heavily on witnesses who are tangentially connected or who have been influenced by outside narratives, while Justin and his team provide clear factual accounts supported by evidence and by the nature of their professional conduct. And as this all unfolds, you realize that the deposition documents are not just legal transcripts, they are a masterclass in understanding how narratives are constructed in Hollywood, how personal relationships are manipulated for leverage, and how attempts to frame innocent behavior as malicious can be systematically dismantled by consistency, transparency, and integrity. And the scale of the deposition, which spans over 1,000 pages, means that there is an immense amount of information for the public to absorb, and yet even from these excerpts, it is obvious that Blake Lively's legal maneuvers have created more problems than they have solved, and the story that emerges is one of a carefully orchestrated plan that fails because the fundamental facts do not support the claims being made. And the public watching this unfold is witnessing a rare glimpse into how legal strategy intersects with Hollywood reputation management and the intense pressures and tactics that actors and producers face behind the scenes in a highly competitive and high-stakes industry. And what makes this even more suspenseful is the way small moments such as a misinterpreted comment about leather pants or a hug on set are expanded into major points of contention, and yet the depositions show that these moments are minor and blown out of proportion, which builds tension because the audience understands that the manipulation is happening in real time. And the way Justin Baldoni handles these questions with patience and authenticity makes the contrast between truth and manufactured narrative almost palpable, and as viewers you are drawn into the drama because every page reveals a new twist or contradiction, and you are compelled to keep watching to see how each element of this case unfolds and who will emerge with credibility and integrity intact, and how the media framing versus the deposition facts create an ongoing suspense as every revelation challenges the prior narrative and forces the audience to question what is real and what is fabricated. And the sheer volume of material also allows for the unfolding of multiple storylines, including Blake Lively's legal strategy, her reliance on third-party witnesses, her attempts to manage public perception, and Justin Baldoni's meticulous and composed defense, which together create a narrative that is dense with drama, suspense, and shock. And as this narrative continues to develop, it becomes clear that the real story is not about scandal or celebrity gossip, but about the consequences of manipulative legal tactics and the resilience of truth under pressure. And watching Justin Baldoni navigate these attacks with clarity, patience, and integrity provides both suspense and reassurance that the truth can withstand attempts at distortion. And in addition, the way that the depositions reveal attempts to drag unrelated parties like Taylor Swift or Ryan Reynolds into the case adds a layer of intrigue because it shows how high-profile individuals can be inadvertently caught in legal crossfire and how reputations can be manipulated or misrepresented without any wrongdoing on their part. And yet the meticulous recording of testimony ensures that facts are preserved and allows the audience to see the stark contrast between allegations and reality, and the tension builds further. As each page turns and new revelations come to light about miscommunications, false narratives, and overzealous legal tactics that ultimately highlight how attempts to control perception often backfire, and the narrative suspense is amplified because the audience is left wondering what will happen next, how the court will interpret these depositions, and what the implications will be for all involved. And as the story continues to unfold, it becomes increasingly evident that while Blake Lively attempted to construct a compelling narrative, her own missteps, leaks, and reliance on tangential witnesses created a situation where every trap she set has only exposed her strategies and undermined her credibility. And the suspense is continuous, because every piece of deposition material reveals another layer of deception or misunderstanding, and the audience is kept engaged as they witness how calculated attempts to manipulate the story collide with the reality presented by Justin Baldoni and Jamie Heath. And this continuous tension keeps viewers on edge and invested in the unfolding drama, because each revelation has consequences for careers, relationships, and reputations. And as the deposition continues to provide new insight into the interpersonal dynamics of the set, the business dealings surrounding the film, and the legal maneuvers employed by all parties, the audience is drawn deeper into a complex web of intrigue, deception, and ultimately human drama that is as compelling as any scripted Hollywood story. As we continue to dive into the unbelievable details of this case, the story only grows more complex and more shocking, because the strategies employed by Blake Lively's team keep unraveling in ways that are almost impossible to believe. And the more you examine the depositions, the clearer it becomes that Justin Baldoni has been navigating an intricate web of false narratives and misleading claims while maintaining composure and transparency. And the public watching this unfold is getting a rare behind-the-scenes look at Hollywood power dynamics, legal maneuvering, and the manipulation of perception. And as we go deeper, we learn about Clara Yubb, the young first-time director whose involvement in this case seems entirely fabricated because she had no direct connection to the production of Ends With Us, and yet she submitted a sworn statement alleging that Justin had been abusive towards her, which on the surface sounds alarming, but when you cross-reference the events with testimony and evidence, it becomes painfully obvious that she is attempting to insert herself into a high-profile situation for personal gain. And the way this was used by Blake Lively's legal team demonstrates a shocking willingness to leverage anyone and everyone to construct a narrative that supports her claims. And the deposition reveals that Justin had no knowledge of Clara Yubb's alleged grievances until long after the event she describes, and that his interactions with her were purely professional, supportive, and appropriate, which completely undermines the attempt to cast him as culpable. And the complexity of this case is compounded by the way Blake Lively's attorneys have attempted to use unrelated legal cases such as Rebel Wilson's lawsuit to create parallels that simply do not exist, because every jurisdiction, every claim, and every set of circumstances is unique. And yet Blake Lively's team presents this as evidence that she has been subjected to a similar smear campaign, which backfires because the judge and the legal system require concrete evidence, not hypothetical comparisons. And the depositions make it clear that Blake Lively has not provided such evidence, and this lack of substance is juxtaposed against the meticulous documentation provided by Justin Baldoni and his team, which includes clear records of communication, professional conduct, and the steps taken to ensure a safe and supportive environment on set. And as we move forward in the deposition, the questioning about Jenny Slate and her reactions highlights just how minor incidents can be manipulated to create sensational narratives, because while she expressed discomfort at certain comments or interactions, nowhere does she allege any harassment or abuse. And yet Blake Lively's attorneys press these points as if they are damning, when in reality, they demonstrate a complete misunderstanding of context and human interaction. And as Justin responds with patience and clarity, it becomes increasingly obvious to any observer that the accusations are inflated and the narrative constructed around them is misleading. And the way he consistently clarifies his intentions and recounts events accurately while remaining calm under long hours of questioning only strengthens his credibility. And the suspense is built page by page as viewers see the contrast between manufactured drama and documented reality. And the deposition also reveals the absurdity of certain lines of questioning, including attempts to associate Justin with political movements like MAGA or HETU or the Manosphere, which are entirely irrelevant to the case but are used by Blake Lively's team in an attempt to paint him in a negative light. And yet his responses are measured, witty, and logical, and the audience sees through the manipulation, which adds a layer of engagement, because the viewers understand that what is being portrayed is not reflective of reality, and the narrative tension escalates when social media actions are scrutinized, because minor posts or tags are reframed as evidence of wrongdoing. But the context provided in the deposition shows that these actions were completely benign and standard practice in celebrity promotion, and this again highlights the stark contrast between reality and narrative construction. And as the story develops, the attempts to portray Jamie Heath as a corrupt or biased witness due to his friendship with Justin also fall flat, because loyalty and professional respect are natural human behaviors and do not constitute evidence of wrongdoing, and the deposition makes this crystal clear by documenting the consistent and transparent accounts provided by both individuals. And the more you read, the more you realize that Blake Lively's team is relying heavily on insinuation, exaggeration, and peripheral witnesses rather than concrete evidence, which in turn undermines their case and builds suspense, because viewers are left waiting to see how each tactic will be dismantled in court. And the intricacies of the deposition also reveal the interplay between professional conduct, production, logistics, and personal relationships, because questions about hugs on set, comments about clothing, or casual remarks are amplified out of proportion. But Justin's composed explanations about energy, communication, consent, and human interaction demonstrate that normal social behaviors are being weaponized for legal strategy, which creates a continuous tension as the audience watches ordinary human actions become fodder for sensationalized claims, and the suspense is enhanced. By the way, each deposition introduces new figures and tangential events, such as the involvement of Ryan Reynolds and his Maximum Effort company in promotion, which, while initially portrayed as peripheral, becomes relevant because it highlights Blake Lively's attempts to manipulate perception about third parties. And the deposition transcripts document Justin Baldoni's honest accounts that counter these narratives, which keeps viewers hooked as they anticipate the next revelation. And the complexity is compounded when Clara Yubb's statements are scrutinized, because they reveal contradictions and a lack of evidence for her claims, while Justin's professional handling of her film production demonstrates mentorship and support, which directly contradicts the portrayal that Blake Lively attempts to construct. And as the pages continue, the line of questioning regarding social media campaigns, the tagging of brands' minor comments or posts, and the attempted comparison between Justin's minimal promotion and Blake's marketing strategy for her products further exposes the double standards that dominate the narrative being pushed against him. And the suspense escalates because viewers are able to see the manipulation while also understanding the rational explanations behind each of Justin's actions, and the human element is never lost because Justin consistently references energy, interpersonal respect, and professional boundaries, which contrasts sharply with the aggressive tactics used by Blake Lively's legal team to frame ordinary actions as misconduct. And the engagement grows because every reader or viewer is left wondering what the next page will reveal, how the judge will interpret these discrepancies, and what further evidence might come to light. And the layers of intrigue expand as witnesses such as Vivian Baker and others are questioned about hugging on set, and each testimony is carefully contrasted against video evidence, interactions, and prior statements, which collectively show that Justin acted responsibly, respectfully, and consistently within the context of normal professional behavior. And the narrative tension is continuous because Blake Lively's attempts to manufacture scandal repeatedly collapse under scrutiny. And as the deposition continues, it becomes obvious that the manipulation is broad in scope, including the attempt to portray Justin as a hero to conservative online communities, which is irrelevant and absurd. And yet the persistence of such lines of questioning creates both suspense and drama, as viewers watch a seasoned professional respond logically and humanely to baseless insinuations, while maintaining a calm and composed demeanor. And the suspense is further heightened when the deposition examines alleged financial disputes, Clara Yubb's claims about being restricted on set, and the production budget issues, which, when contextualized against production records and Justin's documented decisions, reveal a completely different narrative of mentorship, accountability, and appropriate professional oversight, which further exposes the gaps in Blake Lively's case. And as each page is examined, new inconsistencies in witness testimony and evidence manipulation emerge, demonstrating how attempts to control the narrative are consistently undermined by factual accuracy and professional conduct. And the audience remains engaged because the unfolding drama is both shocking and enlightening, revealing the collision between perception and reality within Hollywood legal battles. And as we progress further, the intricacy of interactions, social media activity, third-party involvement, mentorship responsibilities, and production oversight continues to create suspense as viewers witness the unraveling of an elaborate attempt to frame a narrative that simply does not hold up under scrutiny, and each moment adds to the dramatic tension. Because the truth as documented in the depositions is methodically dismantling every manufactured claim, which keeps the audience glued as they follow the story to see just how far the unraveling goes, and the human element remains at the forefront. Because Justin Baldoni's responses emphasize empathy, respect, and professionalism in contrast to the aggressive tactics employed by Blake Lively's team, and the suspense continues. Because the implications for reputations, legal outcomes, and public perception are enormous, and every page of the deposition adds another layer to the unfolding drama, revealing how strategy, manipulation, and attempts to manufacture scandal can ultimately backfire, and the audience cannot help but remain captivated, as each new detail adds tension, suspense, and anticipation for what will come next in this ever-evolving story that has captured the attention of Hollywood insiders, media outlets, and the public alike. And as the deposition continues to unfold new revelations about third-party involvement, minor social media interactions, and misrepresented professional behavior consistently reinforce the narrative that Blake Lively's legal strategy has created more challenges than it has resolved, which maintains suspense because the audience is compelled to follow every development, understand every nuance, and anticipate the next twist in a story that is as shocking as it is compelling. And the narrative tension remains unbroken because the contrast between baseless accusations and documented facts is increasingly evident page by page, line by line, and the drama intensifies because viewers recognize the scale of the manipulation, the scope of the strategy, and the resilience and composure of Justin Baldoni as he navigates these attacks while maintaining clarity and honesty. And the suspense builds further as each new witness testimony, each reference to prior social media or communications, and each cross-examination continues to expose the flaws in Blake Lively's case, creating a narrative that is both shocking and compelling and keeps the audience fully engaged and anticipating the next moment of revelation. As the story unfolds in ways that continue to surprise, challenge, and captivate those following every development in this extraordinary Hollywood legal sagas, the depositions continue to unfold. The story takes even more unexpected turns, revealing the depth of manipulation and the extreme measures taken by Blake Lively's legal team to construct a narrative that simply does not hold up under scrutiny. And the audience is now starting to see the pattern of how minor incidents are exaggerated and used as supposed evidence of misconduct, while Justin Baldoni consistently responds with logic, clarity, and a level of composure that is almost heroic, because he is being questioned for hours on end in ways designed to trap, confuse, and intimidate him, while he maintains professionalism and transparency. And the involvement of third parties continues to complicate the story as Ryan Reynolds, Maximum Effort team, and various other Hollywood figures are dragged into the narrative in ways that are both misleading and sensationalized. And the media reporting on these depositions has started to pick up on the discrepancies, the unsealed, confidential information, and the home addresses that were leaked, which not only creates a public relations nightmare but also highlights the recklessness or strategic overreach of Blake Lively's team. And the audience watching this drama unfold cannot help but feel the tension, because every page of the deposition seems to reveal more attempts at manipulation, more baseless insinuations, and more examples of ordinary professional behavior being twisted into scandal. And the suspense escalates when Jenny Slate's testimony is examined, because the focus on a single comment about leather pants being sexy is repeated and scrutinized across multiple pages, as if it were evidence of inappropriate behavior when in fact it was a benign remark. And Justin's responses to these questions are measured, thoughtful, and empathetic, showing concern for the feelings of those involved, while also calmly explaining context, intent, and perspective, which further exposes the desperation in the legal tactics being used against him. And the human drama deepens because Justin's repeated efforts to clarify misunderstandings, to maintain a respectful professional environment, contrast sharply with Blake Lively's team's aggressive line of questioning, which attempts to manufacture scandal from everyday interactions. And the audience is left on edge as they follow each question, each answer, and each revelation, knowing that these depositions could have long-term consequences for reputations, legal outcomes, and Hollywood power dynamics. And as the story progresses, the absurdity of certain lines of questioning becomes increasingly clear, including attempts to associate Justin with political movements that are entirely irrelevant to the case, such as MAGA Hetu and the Manosphere, which are brought up repeatedly as if being a hero in these online communities is indicative of misconduct, when in reality, it has no bearing on professional behavior or legal accountability. And Justin's ability to turn these questions into thoughtful, measured answers while maintaining humor and perspective adds a layer of suspense and engagement, because viewers recognize the manipulation and are compelled to watch as he navigates these traps with skill and composure. And the intricacy of the case is amplified by the way Blake Lively's team tries to use unrelated lawsuits like the Rebel Wilson case to create parallels that simply do not exist, and the attempt to suggest a smear campaign based on these other cases falls apart when Justin's detailed records communications and the factual timeline of events clearly demonstrate the lack of evidence supporting Blake Lively's claims, and the suspense is heightened because viewers can see the stark contrast between manufactured narrative and documented reality, which keeps them glued to every word of the deposition as new details emerge. And the drama is further intensified by the introduction of Clara Yubb, whose sworn statement attempts to suggest misconduct on Justin's part despite the fact that she had no involvement in the production, and the deposition clarifies that Justin had no knowledge of any grievances she allegedly had, and that his interactions with her were professional, supportive, and appropriate, which completely undermines her attempt to insert herself into the case, and the audience is left in suspense because every new revelation about her involvement or lack thereof exposes another layer of manipulation and creates anticipation for how the judge will interpret these inconsistencies. And the human element remains at the center of this narrative because Justin repeatedly emphasizes energy, consent, professional boundaries, and empathy in his responses to questions about hugging, interactions, and minor comments, which demonstrates that normal human behavior is being weaponized for legal strategy. And the dramatic tension is maintained because viewers are witnessing the collision between perception and reality with each exchange between attorney and deponent. And as the pages continue, the scrutiny of social media activity and public perception becomes a central theme, because tagging brands, posting stories, and minor comments are reframed as evidence of wrongdoing, which, when contextualized against Justin's explanations and the timeline of events, reveals the absurdity of these claims, and the suspense is amplified because viewers are constantly trying to anticipate what the next line of questioning will reveal and how Justin will respond, and the narrative complexity grows as attempts to portray Jamie Heath as a corrupt or biased witness due to his friendship with Justin are dismantled by clear documentation of loyalty, professionalism, and transparency, which highlights how normal human relationships are being misrepresented to support a false narrative. And the audience remains captivated because they can see the contrast between baseless insinuation and documented fact, which keeps them engaged and invested in the outcome. And the suspense is maintained as the deposition delves deeper into allegations about minor incidents, interactions on set, and financial disputes. And each time Justin provides context, clarity, and evidence, the manufactured narrative begins to crumble, revealing the desperation and overreach of Blake Lively's strategy. And the human drama intensifies as viewers witness Justin navigating these intense interrogations for hours on end, while maintaining calm, empathy, and composure, which is both shocking and compelling because it highlights resilience and integrity under extreme pressure. And the narrative tension is further increased when witnesses are questioned about hugging and other interpersonal interactions on set, because while Blake Lively's team attempts to portray these actions as inappropriate, Justin's consistent and rational explanations reveal the reality of the situation, which contrasts sharply with the narrative being pushed and keeps the audience on edge as each new detail is revealed. And the suspense continues because the implications for reputations, legal outcomes, and public perception remain high, and every page of the deposition adds to the unfolding drama as viewers watch ordinary professional behavior twisted into scandal and see how factual clarity systematically dismantles the manufactured narrative. And the engagement grows because Justin's responses emphasize respect, empathy, and human interaction, which contrasts with the aggressive tactics employed by Blake Lively's legal team and creates a compelling dynamic for viewers who are witnessing the collision between perception and reality in a high-profile Hollywood legal battle. And as the questioning moves through social media interactions, financial matters, Clara Yubb's claims, and third-party involvement, the story continually reveals new layers of manipulation, exaggeration, and baseless claims, which are systematically addressed and dismantled by Justin's clear and honest responses, keeping the audience captivated because every new revelation adds suspense and insight into the complexity of Hollywood legal battles and the human drama at the center of this conflict. And the story continues to escalate as the deposition highlights the contrast between manufactured narrative and reality, because Blake Lively's attempts to frame Justin through minor incidents, exaggerations, and peripheral witnesses repeatedly fail when juxtaposed against documented evidence and transparent testimony, and the suspense remains unbroken because viewers are drawn into the unfolding drama page by page, line by line, witnessing the unraveling of a narrative constructed on insinuation, exaggeration, and manipulation, and the human element remains at the forefront because Justin Baldoni's responses consistently emphasize empathy, professionalism, and integrity, in stark contrast to the aggressive tactics employed against him. And the narrative continues to build suspense, drama, and engagement as viewers follow every exchange, question, and revelation, understanding the stakes, reputations, and legal implications while being captivated by the shocking unfolding story that exposes the attempts to manufacture scandal and manipulate perception in ways that are as dramatic as they are compelling. And as the deposition moves forward, each additional page, each witness statement, each new line of questioning adds tension, suspense, and drama as the audience watches how ordinary professional conduct is twisted for legal strategy, and how Justin Baldoni's composure, clarity, and honesty systematically dismantle the false narrative, keeping viewers glued to every word and eager to see what will happen next as the story continues to unfold, revealing more surprises, contradictions, and shocking revelations that maintain dramatic tension, suspense, and viewer engagement throughout the saga of this extraordinary Hollywood legal battleline. Conclusion: what this deposition and the unfolding story ultimately reveal is the stark contrast between manufactured narrative and reality, because as we have seen, Blake Lively's team has repeatedly attempted to construct a story filled with insinuations, exaggerations, and peripheral witnesses, while Justin Baldoni and his team have maintained transparency, integrity, and professionalism throughout every single stage of this legal battle. And the audience watching this unfold is witnessing a rare, behind-the-scenes look at how high-profile Hollywood cases operate, how perception can be manipulated, and how ordinary human behavior can be twisted for strategic purposes. And the suspense and drama of these depositions demonstrate that even in the face of aggressive questioning, misleading claims, and attempts to frame innocent actions as misconduct, the truth consistently emerges through clarity, consistency, and factual documentation. And it is undeniable that Justin Baldoni's composure, patience, and thoughtful responses